All right. Hey, Pitchgang. Welcome back to another edition of Pathfix. We're going to be joined by Ralph and Samira. For those of you guys who do not know, Ralph is the CEO of the company and Samira is the COO of Pathfix. And if you don't know what Pathfix is, if you haven't joined us for our previous webinars, why don't we have Samira share with us what Pathfix is, and then we'll dive into the features and use cases today.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So glad you could join us. Pathfix is an OAuth proxy that enables SaaS integrations in just a few minutes.
Awesome. And who should be interested in Pathfix?
Right. So Pathfix can be used by all SaaS developers, SaaS builders, and SaaS founders who are looking to expand the functionality of their platform by adding more integrations to allow their end users to access their platforms and pull data or push data into those platforms.
Awesome. And just to give us some context behind Pathfix, when did you guys officially launch, and how long have you guys been working on this product?
Right. So we've actually been SaaS founders for a little over 6 years. And in those 6 years, we've built about 7 different products just together. Pathfix is our second company together. And, we sort of came on this idea late last year, which was around end of November. And we went live with Pathfix in Feb, the first week of Feb. And it's just been rolling ever since.
Awesome. So I'm excited to actually dive into our features today, as well as various use case scenarios, because that's probably where a lot of light bulbs are going to go off for a lot of our viewers, where they're going to be like, hey, you know what? I actually didn't think of this before. I didn't think about how I can save money. I didn't think about how I can save time. I have this type of business, and I didn't even consider using a solution like Pathfix. So let's jump into that right away.
Sure, we can't wait to actually share how SaaS companies can actually save a lot of time by just using Pathfix to handle the non-peripheral OAuth connectivity and the communication side of it. So yeah, let's just jump right in.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so should I just share my screen here?
Sure.
Okay, so just let me know if you're able to see see the screen.
See your screen.
Great. All right, so Ralph, do you want to take this one? Just to go over, just to go over the different stages of integration and development that every SaaS company, any product company would go through.
Yeah. So so like the slides says over here, the integration strategy is actually your starting point to deciding how you want your software to fit into the end user's stack, or how do you want your SaaS to fit into the end user's environment. The complete starting point over here, as mentioned, is actually the integration strategy. What analytical tools do you want to integrate into? Do you want to pull from documents, from Excel files? Do you want to push information into notification systems? You'll combine all of that and put that into your integration strategy. Then you'll identify, okay, so I've said that, I want to pull the information from, from Drive or from Excel. The providers for that would be something like a Google Drive or OneDrive or Dropbox. If you talk, if you want to pull from analytical tools, or if you want to push data into analytical tools, you'd probably have Google Analytics as a provider, or Marketo as a provider. So that's the second part, where you identify the providers the providers that you want to integrate into. Now, obviously, it's very important to decide and understand what is your end user's stack. What are the other softwares that your end user is currently using, uh, your target end customer is using, and make sure that your integration strategy would fit into his current stack. It wouldn't tell him that my SaaS integrates with something that you don't use or you've never used before. Then you go on to building the functionality. You obviously have your code base in Python or Node.js uh, or React, or a combination of these possibly. You'll use design tools. You'll basically then go ahead to build functionality. Now, when you actually get to build functionality, you try to decide what kind of APIs, then you sort of, starting to build as to what APIs and what parts are going to trigger at what stage. So for example, in Pathfix itself, we've set up notifications if there's a failure, your messages don't go through. We have the capability to send you a notification on Slack that a failure has, the system has encountered a failure while trying to send a message. Now, those trigger points are very important over here, because those will be the guidelines for your team to go ahead and build the API. And then, once you have all of this ready, then you're tasked with, the two biggest elements, which are actually the OAuth connection and going live. Now, the OAuth connection, after you've done all of the first 4 steps, you will realize that the 5th step takes, possibly, twice the amount of time that the first few steps, the first 4 steps actually took for you to get there. So when we're talking about the OAuth connection, how do you go about actually setting up an OAuth connection? Now, if I were a user who was using multiple SaaS tools, then I could, I could go into a workflow system like, a Zapier or, or a Workato or Blender or something like that, and create a workflow saying that, when there's a trigger in a certain system, I want an action in some other system. But then that, that's not what you want to offer. As a SaaS system, you want to offer ready-made integrations. So you start building the integrations from scratch. You start setting up a server to receive the OAuth tokens, the authorization code. You put in code over there. After you've downloaded the libraries for your particular development environment, you download libraries to actually, do the encryption, to exchange your authorization codes for access codes. When the access codes expire, you exchange your fresh tokens, you get fresh codes, and you also set up a database, a data store to actually store all of these tokens, because when the triggers occur in your system, and they actually do want to make a communication call to one of your providers, the information has to be there in some kind of a data store. And remember that the information in your data store needs to be completely encrypted at rest and at transport as well. Now, with this, what you have really done with the OAuth connection is you've actually done, if you treated it like a dedicated module, you would have done the right thing and created all the components. But if you treat it like an extension, you would have taken shortcuts. You would have downloaded code which is not supported by parties, which is put out there, but it was available in your language, so it made sense to use it then. And that code then slipped into production. And then you finally go live, which again means if you've done it right, you've got a separate set of servers or separate containers managing the OAuth system for you. Now, Samira, can you just go to the next slide? The next.
Yeah.
So this, sorry, previous one, sorry, just to highlight. So this is the problem that Pathfix actually takes away, from you. You really do not have to spend time trying to do all of this. All you need to do is go to your providers, get your client ID and your secret, and 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 feed it into Pathfix, and subsequently you have to then pass all your messages through Pathfix server. Essentially, we take care of everything that you would have done in these two stages. And we also take care of simplicity of implementation, for your developers. There is nothing new that they have to learn. We take care of scalability. We take care of latency issues. And of course, we take care of security as well. Yes. So that's, yeah. So this is the stage. It's not necessary that if you're actually building a new SaaS software, you've got to implement it. You might have a lot of legacy code that actually you're actually spending time keeping that code up. You're keeping that code alive. You don't really need to do that. Pathfix presents itself as a drop-in replacement, and the only code that that Pathfix gives you is the endpoint URLs, so that you can pass your messages through Pathfix server, and there is no API absolutely necessary. You can just take the API documentation that is mentioned with your provider, package it into a JSON, and send it through our pass-through servers. We'll take care of the rest for you. So the stage of development could either be at the beginning, or the stage of development could be if you've implemented, but your OAuth strategy or your integration strategy, it's not moving fast enough. This lets you get there at rocket speed.
That's awesome. And a lot of people don't consider these problems when they're putting their product together, especially if this is their first time launching a SaaS. They're not considering how much manpower, even time and money is involved when it comes to setting up integrations.
Yes, people completely miss that out. And they don't do it intentionally, because a SaaS startup has tons of things to worry about, and the more you can take off your plate and outsource to ready-made development environments or serverless environments, the better it works for a SaaS organization. Yeah, and not only then, I mean, so if you had a need for a drive, you wouldn't go and make a drive, you just integrate. So integration is becoming more and more of a strategic requirement with SaaS softwares in today's hyper specialized SaaS environment.
I agree. So I'm actually excited to see what use cases we have available for our viewers.
Yeah. So Mary, you want to?
Sure. So so if I could just jump here. So how exactly we just to take this a little forward, how are we changing? What exactly does Pathfix offer, right? So when you are integrating using Pathfix, what you would get are two primary features. One is the end user authorization, where you allow your users to essentially connect and authorize, which is where they would get a button that says integrate with integrate with Slack, or integrate with connect to Intercom. So that is the authorization that Pathfix will handle end to end. And once the authorization has been completed, the second feature set that Pathfix offers is the ability for you to communicate between your app and the service provider. So be it either pushing the data from your application to the service provider, or pulling information from the service provider to your app. Right, so Pathfix essentially handles both sides of it.
And this is all end-to-end secure. Our users don't have to worry about people, I guess, hijacking data in transit.
Yes, I mean, so hijacking data in transit, is more or less, not possible, as long as you're using, secure socket layers, and you've configured to use, TLS 2.0 version on your servers for security. But essentially, what's more important is the data at rest, because you know with the data in transit, with that all encrypted, the data at rest needs to be severely protected, because that actually gives, if that is hacked into, it actually gives access to your end users complete account through your client ID, which is actually a very serious problem. So as part of our basic guiding principles, in Pathfix, security is like way up there, uh, uh, but very close after. We've got scalability and latency, that we excessively stress upon in our company.
Awesome. And that's very important for people to know, because that's a great concern today, especially with all these reports of hackers. And I'm sure a SaaS would not want to be a victim of that, because it could definitely hurt their reputation. And if they have less people who have access to all the secret keys, that would definitely help too.
Right.
Awesome. So I guess what's next on
Yeah,
our
so just to go over, the scenario, the use cases that you were talking about. So if we were to take, the first scenario where where Pathfix would essentially come in, right? So say, for instance, in this first scenario, we are looking at an enterprise license management company, right? So that what they do is they have multiple, they create reports from multiple SaaS usages, right? So they pull license information and the number of users for each of these platforms and the billing across multiple platforms, right? So what they want to do is say they want to allow their users to be able to connect and link all of their existing SaaS accounts into this platform, so they have a holistic view of what is happening on their platform, right? So this is one scenario or one use case where Pathfix would be, where an OAuth integration as such is required, and this is where essentially Pathfix would come in, right? So the other scenario that could possibly be is, say it is a a visual, say a road mapping solution, right, where the platform essentially offers you a roadmap and newsfeed capabilities, right? What they would like to do is they would like to allow their users to pull in information from a Trello board or Jira and bring it into this road mapping solution, right? So these the if we were to look at these two scenarios, where the first scenario is so heavily dependent on integration, and the second scenario is just looking at an extension of of their core offering, where they are just pulling in information from their users existing platforms that they have access to, so making it a lot easier. Essentially what they are trying to do is be a part of the user stack, not get the users to redo things that they have already done in some of their existing solutions, right? So they are two different kind of companies, but their need at the end of it is the same, where they want OAuth connectivity to be able to provide integration to speak to their existing solutions that their end users are a part of, right? So this is essentially where we're saying that Pathfix would fit in, where they can these sort of companies could just come use sign up with Pathfix, just add their application in there. Setup will get done in essentially less than 5 minutes. They would not have to download and manage any sort of SDKs, like Ralph had mentioned at the beginning. And obviously you would have no servers to manage. The data encryption security would be handled entirely by Pathfix, so the company can essentially focus on their core solution, and without actually having to worry about managing additional servers or spending at least 400 plus hours per integration with their engineering team.
Awesome. So we mentioned this the other day about how you no longer need to have a specialized person who needs to know everything about integrating a Google setup, for example. Now all you have to do is simply use Pathfix to manage that connection in under 5 minutes. You don't have to worry about coding. And we even had a calculator that was available. Maybe we could drop that in the comment section. So that way people can actually estimate how much time and money they would normally spend setting up anywhere from 5 to 10 to 20 integrations.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. So we do have a calculator that is there on the website that users can access if they would like to get a sense of what is the current, process that they're possibly following, or they're thinking of following, of managing their own servers or building out their own OAuth connectivity, because you would be able to understand that it would take you anywhere from 400 plus hours, which would, essentially relates to about $35,000 just to build out, say 5, integrations to your platform. So you could essentially just take a look at the breakdown that is there on the website. And yes, we'll share that link at the end of this webinar as well.
Awesome. That was actually very helpful for me because usually people don't think about things until they start visualizing it, and having that calculators, it made it really easy.
Okay, great. So yeah, we will definitely put that out there. And in case if anyone would even like to understand, what the breakup is, and, so we also have a complete breakdown of each element that goes in when you're trying to build out that connectivity.
Excellent. So let's jump to the next slide.
Well, actually, that is, I think that is all that we had to share in respect to what Pathfix could, possibly do when it comes to looking at your different stages of integration, where, the different sort of scenarios where in one side you might have, essentially users who would, companies that would like to completely focus on, a very integration heavy strategy, versus companies that would just like to extend their existing use cases or bring in data from the user's existing stack.
Gotcha. So it's very interesting because we can start to identify various problems that SaaS founders would face, ranging from development hours to having to deal with a rinse and repeat style system where they have to keep dealing with the same integration over and over again, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. In fact, integration strategies, what I've seen in the companies that have been a part of, or the products that I've been a part of, the implementation of an integration, because it used to be so complex, it actually used to restrict the company's ability to roll out integrations. Integrations, in fact, it's so important, for a development company. Like in the example that was mentioned earlier with the road mapping company, with an integration strategy of pulling information from a Trello board or a Jira, you can immediately tap into, the users of your target software that are already out there, just by having an integration into those softwares. So it basically gives you a big lead in your launch strategy, in your go-to-market strategy, so that you're not really stuck with saying that, okay, I've got to build everything from ground up. I will build a system, and I will go out there and I will spend loads of money trying to get people in. At some point, you realize that having an integration strategy somewhere over there helps your go-to-market, your go-to-market strategy, very heavily.
I agree. There are times when I visit websites and they always ask, oh, sign up for an account or create this user account. And then if I go through the options, I don't see Facebook integration or Google integration. I'm less likely to want to sign up because I like that single sign-on capability.
Passwords, I mean, and how many passwords are you going to remember? So, I can see what you're saying, that, the sign up itself is like your starting point. You could actually go with, some more serious SSO or single sign-on providers, but that is actually, because you mentioned it, it is actually a very good example of a basic integration strategy, saying that, okay, I don't really want to manage authentication. As part of my integration strategy, I will push the authentication to Google, to GitHub, to Facebook, to LinkedIn, whatever my end users, common usage scenarios are. So like what we've done, we have a strategy over there, and we pushing it to Google, and as well as GitHub, because we believe most of our developer audience are going to have accounts over there, and the familiarity that they don't really have to share passwords with us actually helps, because one click and you're in. You tell Google, okay, allow them to read your public profile, and you're in. And just that integration strategy has actually checked a hidden checkbox in the developer's mind.
Exactly. And these are the things that developers should really think about. How do they manage their stack? And since we're actually talking about the stack, what do you feel like Pathfix will help our developers do and expand on as they're, I guess, formulating what their stack should be? Because typically when people put together their strategy for putting together their stack, they're probably thinking about money, how much time is available, what resources are available. And now using Pathfix, this can open many doors, true or not true?
Yeah, it actually leads to more quality work, than actually spending a lot of time trying to figure out, oh, how do I need to do this? So the developer can actually professionally lead a more quality life, is how I'd like to put it. Because, it is very repetitive. You can imagine everybody, every developer in every company is trying to figure out the same OAuth documentation. And because the OAuth, scenario is so complex, even if you go to a provider's website, after a while, it'll be a little overwhelming. You'll see that everybody is putting in a hell lot of an effort trying to explain how to connect to their servers, how to provide the access tokens, if there's an encryption, what kind of encryption, and after you basically completely saturated at the end of 2 or 3 integrations. So with this, you could actually plan to roll out your integrations much faster, and you can also have a happy developer, because he's not really so concerned that he has to go back to this boring OAuth documentation. And although it's supposed to be the same architecture, every time he goes to an OAuth document, he finds that, oh, there is something different, and I have to go back and change my code base to accommodate for this as well. So yes, time is a very big aspect, which will allow you to then focus on quicker releases, quicker production strategies.
I agree 100%. That's the conversation that I hear often amongst my developer friends. They always talk about how they spend countless hours that week, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80 hours just working on one problem. And I can't wait for this to launch tomorrow. And I can just say, hey, you remember that problem you guys were having last week? Well, you don't have to worry about setting up those integrations anymore. You can just use Pathfix, and this can solve all your problems. So that way you can focus on your core product.
Absolutely. So this is something that we ourselves faced when we were building, out our products, because we realized that it took far too long just for, OAuth integrations to happen, because, OAuth, although is a standardized process that, supposed to simplify everything, it just gets a bit too complicated, because every service provider has, their own ways of, implementing these things. They have their own encryption layers. They require their own methods of connecting with their platforms. So the entire approach to searching for the right framework for it, the right token management, building that out, and looking for an SDK that would actually solve that problem that they're specifically looking for, is too time consuming. It takes away too much of time from from the engineer's point of view, because that is time that he could use in focusing on building out the core product, the core functionality, and work on, what they would want to work on, which is the platform that, that they're a part of, versus, spending hours and hours on end trying to build out servers, trying to maintain those servers, build, error logging, error check, building out the encryption from, end to end, making sure everything is running the way it should, setting up notification engines. So all of that is peripheral, right? And it no longer has to take you hours on end for you to build that out. Now with Pathfix, we allow that to happen in less than 3 minutes. All you have to do is just, copy and, just let us know what the client ID and secret is, and we would give you the redirect, and you are up and running in just a few minutes.
So we have a question coming in from our viewers, and they want to know, how do you handle integrations that are not currently available on Pathfix? Do you provide any type of high-level authentication or data gathering via web scraping? Oh, so it's multiple questions. So let's do the first question first.
Yeah.
How do you handle integrations that are not available on Pathfix, but would like you to add it?
No, so this is a very, very interesting question, and it actually has taken up a lot of time initially when we were actually trying to set up, and we kept thinking is what integration. So we wanted all of the integrations from all of the providers to work, which really meant a whole lot of heavy lifting. But on the other hand, we didn't want to prioritize, saying that okay, if I didn't want to give the most popular integrations from one provider and leave out the rest until there is a request for it. So here's what we did. We actually designed OAuth as an open-ended pass-through server. And if you actually go and look at our playground, what you'll see is that you don't really have to wait for an integration to be available. All you need to wait for is the provider to be available. And once the provider is available, your integration payload is picked up as defined in the provider's website and passed through Pathfix servers. So what you realize is that if Slack is offering you 87 integrations, you can use 87 integrations from day one, irrespective of whether it's not an integration that we're providing. We're providing you a server and the ability to pass this information through our servers, and our servers will take care of all the the hygiene issues related to authorization of your message.
Right, and just to add to that, we currently have about close to 50 service providers that are already live and available for everyone to use. And we're targeting about to get about 300 different service providers, and obviously we're keeping a track on our roadmap and any requests that come from our customers, and we are prioritizing. We're hoping to get that out in the next few weeks to hit that 300 service provider list.
Awesome. And also, do you provide any type of high-level authentication data gathering via web scraping?
No, we don't.
Okay. And then, if not, can you add a SDK for screen scraping so we can create our own integrations?
So it seems like an SDK for screen scraping. So I know a provider by the name of PySync, which actually pulls information and aggregates it and syncs information for certain industries of data, but it's not necessarily screen scraping. It falls under the data syncing kind of a category. We don't really plan to, because that will change change focus in what we're trying to achieve. Possibly, if there's heavy request for that kind of stuff, it could be a potential product that aspiring SaaS entrepreneurs can take up. But I don't think it's within the scope of Pathfix vision to actually take care of that right now.
Okay, great questions, guys. Keep them coming if you guys have them. And while we're waiting for questions, let's dive into the features that's available to our viewers tomorrow. without revealing the plan price.
Right. So features available is obviously simplicity is I like to call it simplicity is because all you need to do to actually achieve or take advantage of the complete package that we told you is just get your client ID and secrets from your provider, put it into Pathfix, and it's just 3 lines of code that you need to add into your into your server side language or your client side libraries, and you're ready to go. So simplicity is actually very key from a feature perspective. Secondly, firewall. So we keep mentioning about security. So there is a firewall which checks for the origins of where the request is coming from. In case you choose to use JavaScript, there's also IP so allowed IPs that so if you're doing a server to server integration, it will check and allow requests only from certain IPs. And for servers to server integrations, there's an additional private key that you can make use of, which overrides the firewall and origins configuration. So with this, you've got your very own private key that that you exchange to the server, so that the server authorizes or honors the call coming from your device. Besides that, we've got a logging, not only error logging, but we also have a logging of all the requests that go up and down, which appear in a log mode uh, for a day. In case in the development mode you need to debug what is going on. These are all self-clearing logs because that is the actual information going up and down. So the logs just clear up at the end of a day. So if you're actually trying something and trying to figure out, okay, why is something not working, uh, and we realize this, because we are developers ourselves, we need to see the logs as to what's gone wrong. So logs are a big feature. Error error notifications. We send error notifications directly on Slack. So for some reason, if some API server is down, or the request that you made is failing, or there is a need for reauthorization from your end customer. These kind of scenarios generate errors in the calls, and what we do is we trap these and send you messages into Slack. So obviously, we're using our own, dog food to actually send error messages into your Slack for those kind of purposes. Uh, Besides that, yeah, I think that's all. That's all that there is. You can actually see the list of users who have actually uh, chosen to authenticate with different providers. It's a very simple list right now, but that module is maturing, and you'd be able to do some fairly advanced searches or analytics on that over time. Yeah.
Right, and just to touch on the just two other additional aspects, and that is we are completely scalable, which means that we'd be able to expand, and depending on what your needs are, we would be able to handle high volumes, without any issue. So you'd be able to go up with the number of users, and you'd be able to go down as well. So the whole scalable issue would not is something that we have completely handled. Apart from that, we also guarantee an annual uptime percentage of about 99.5%. And we also provide a very low latency for authorization and message sending, right? So essentially what we're saying is that you'd be able to connect to as many providers without having to worry about infrastructure, or worry about the actual message sending and communication between the applications.
Excellent. We have another question coming in. Will licensing allow us to use Pathfix on multiple apps that we're developing, or will it be based on per app? That's a great question.
No, so the licensing works across the account. Every account, can have multiple apps. Uh, so if you have, if you've taken up a plan which allows you to send, 50,000 or 500,000 messages, it is across your account and not across it. It's not app specific, it's account specific. So if you have 10 apps, you can split it between those 10 apps. In fact, you could, it also caters for messages for tenants and subtenants. That's probably, a more advanced subject. We'll probably take it up some other time.
Yep, we can definitely go into that tomorrow. We do the full feature deep dive and walkthrough. That way we can show visually how that works with various integrations. So if you guys are curious about how that would work, about tenants and subtenants, make sure you join us tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern time for our call. So that way you guys can actually see the entire process of launching a Pathfix integration from start to finish. If you guys have other questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. But so far, I believe a lot of people are pretty excited about what we're about to do. And I'm excited to see the fruits of this labor, because if we can cut down development time, we can definitely offer more to our community, especially during these troubling times with everything that's going on, so much uncertainty in today's economy and today's work environment. More and more people are now turning to work from home, and with a growing demand for work from home, that means there's going to be more demand for SaaS overall. So we saw that happen with Zoom, we saw that happen with Slack, we saw that happen with a lot of these different channels. So right now, people's creativity is on like maximum, and everyone's looking for ways to solve these issues with using, I guess, the internet as a vehicle, as a tool to create success. I'm sure you guys would agree.
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely do agree, yeah.
Yeah, we completely agree.
So that ends our time for today. It's 1 p.m. So thank you guys for joining us. For those of you guys who just hopped on the call, this is going to be recorded and reposted onto Facebook and YouTube. So don't worry. And if you guys have questions regarding Pathfix, make sure you leave them in the comment section below. I mean, in our comment section below, so that way we can answer them tomorrow during our live call. And if you guys are curious about how to set up your account, make sure you join us at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So that way we can show you from start to finish how to set up your account, how to add on integrations. And we'll also dive into the different features of every plan that's available, whether you're a small starting SaaS to a full-blown SaaS that has many integrations. We'll show you all the different pricing schemes, as well as your, I guess, your features as your lifetime deal. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you guys. Thanks, Ralph. Thanks, Amira, for jumping on the call today. So that way we can educate our viewers more on what Pathfix is, what it will do for them, and where they can go as a business. So thank you again.
Thanks so much, Richard.
Thanks.
This has been great. So if anybody has any questions, you can, of course, put them on the comments, or you can also reach our support. We're at, support@pathfix.com.
Awesome. And again, we'll be sharing the link for the calculator for those of you guys who are curious on how much time and money would be spent on your integration setup. So if you want to streamline your stack, if you want to start saving money, check out that calculator and then join us on the call tomorrow. So see you guys. Take care.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.